I once made a video arguing that for most people, a mid-range phone will do just fine. That's all they need. Yeah, you guys understand the law of diminishing returns, more properly called the law of eventually diminishing returns. Now, this law states that with given production techniques, the increment to output associated with each additional unit of a variable factor applied to a given amount of a fixed factor will eventually diminish. In short, all I'm saying is that when purchasing a phone in recent times, the more cash you pump into your investment, the less likely you are to get an equal increase in phone. And the reason is
good phones are getting cheap, and cheap phones are getting good.
And that's where the AGM Mobile Note N1 comes in. Let's take a look at this device. Okay guys, so this here is the AGM Mobile Find Your Glory, or is it Calorie? Anyway, let's get into the box. The box was already opened by the post office so that I can pay tax, KRA things. Okay, a SIM ejector tool is right over here. This must be cheap, right? A user guide, a warranty card, here a nice transparent plasticky silicone case. Now let's get to the device in itself. Maybe we'll set this over here. Here we have a charging brick. Oops, did I just break it? 18 watts with this one, but I think the phone itself charges at 10 watts. And finally in the box we have your charging and data cable, USB Type-C. So yeah, the device feels quite good in the hand. It's most definitely plastic, both on the sides and the back. A quick tour around the phone, we can see that over here there's the plastic cover with some specs listed. Android 13 with 8 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage, a 50 megapixel main camera and a 8 megapixel front camera, 0.3 megapixel macro camera, and a 6.52 inch HD plus. That is basically 720p, not 1080p. Let's peel this off, and if you, yep. Okay, here goes your display. I can see that there's a pre-applied screen protector and the bezel is this big at the bottom. On the left side here, we have our SIM tray, and this, my friends, is 3 choose 2, so you can have SIM 1 and SIM 2 or one SIM card and a memory card, and this supports up to 256 GBs. On the right side, we do have some buttons. One of them is your power button, and we have a volume rocker over here. The buttons feel quite good. They're plastic, but they are quite clicky. The power button right over here also does house our side-mounted fingerprint sensor. The screen is quite a fingerprint magnet. So at the bottom on the left, we have a 3.5mm headphone jack. It seems like only budget phones do have this. We have your microphone right over here, the charging port, USB Type-C, and by the way, this is USB 2.0. So yeah, you're not gonna be getting very fast file transfers from here, but it will work. And we do have a single speaker down firing. And at the top, my friends, we have nothing. Now let's check out the cameras on the back. Over here you can see that we have 2 lenses. The top one is the 50 megapixel main camera, and the bottom one is the 0.3 now or something macro camera, and a bit of subtle branding over here. And at the front we have in the teardrop your 8 megapixel selfie camera, and behind all these cameras we have Samsung sensors, so not your usual Sonys that are found in flagships. So let me take a minute to sign in, set up the phone, and I'll be back with you guys. Okay, from the outset, let me state clearly that AGM actually sent me this phone for the purpose of making this review, but my opinion cannot be bought or sold. I'd just tell you guys if it was a horrible phone. And they don't even know whether or when I'll post this video. So this is my experience after about a week of checking it out, and this is not an advert. Now, onto the meat and potatoes, or potatoes, depending on where you came from. First, because someone will definitely ask, who on earth is AGM? Now, this AGM company has actually been making mobile phones since 2008. They claim to have a design team somewhere in Europe, but most manufacturers, yeah, including iPhone, Samsungs of this world, and so on, do make their phones in China. So does AGM. So AGM Mobile has been specializing in making rugged phones that are meant to withstand extreme conditions like dust, water, and what have you. But seems like this Note N1 is actually their first normal phone. So yeah, you probably haven't heard about them just yet because you've not really been in the market for a phone that can make it to the North Pole or Antarctica or here where I live without batting an eyelid. So back to this Note N1. Let's start with the screen. I know that having mentioned that this is a 720p screen, most of you guys may have already written it off, but let me tell you, there is more to a good screen than just resolution. For such a small size of a screen, like compared to a monitor right over there, the truth is, it's not like most people will actually even be able to tell apart a 720p screen from like a 1080p or even a 4K screen, especially when it comes to smartphones. And you tend to get used to and get comfortable with what you have, not unless you actually have a higher resolution screen to compare with Pixel Peep. I suspect that that's even part of the reason why YouTube, this platform, no longer actually gives you those nitty-gritty selections for 1080p, 720p, and so on. They just write, lower quality, higher quality. Because, believe you me, most people are actually watching these videos on their phones in 360p. And they are very comfortable. If it were a TV, for example, I'd even really struggle to watch at 720p. But for a phone, 720p is plenty, I tell you. That's why I even stopped uploading massive GBs of 4K videos over here on YouTube, and you guys just watch them on 720p at most. What I'm saying is that for a screen, there's much more that influences your user experience rather than just the resolution. And those other things include things like brightness and refresh rate. On the brightness aspect, I've found that AGM Note N1, this phone, though it might not win any prizes for brightness, is actually a good enough phone, good enough screen to be able to see, what's happening during the day, those bright sunny days when you're outdoors. And thank God, because this thing is 720p, it's easy on the battery. So yeah, even when the brightness is turned up to the max, your battery is not gonna be draining too fast. And the reverse is also true. This device also dims low enough for you to read comfortably in the dark, in bed. The other very important aspect about the usability of a display is the refresh rate. And the GM here has bumped this up a little bit to 90 Hz, which is higher than the 60 Hz that a lot of us are used to. So you can expect some smoother scrolling, especially if you are coming from a 60 Hz device. Next, battery life. AGM has gone ahead and given you a 4900 milliampere hour battery without the phone being too thick. And in my experience as a moderate user, I don't play games and so on, I've actually been ending my day on this Note N1 with 50% battery, which means that it's actually even possible to push 2 days on this thing. A downside I've noted though is that, especially compared to my Realme 6 that I was using, the charging times here are horrible. You see, I wish AGM did at least 30 watts charging over here, but you just want to be plugging this thing in when you go to bed. You're not gonna be charging it, fast in the morning when you get up like I'm used to for 30 minutes and you're done and you go. Okay, now let's talk about software, and that's where I'm gonna give this phone the most points. Here you are gonna get Android 13 as clean as it comes, no bloatware in sight, no ads, unlike many phones nowadays which come bundled with Facebook and TikTok and what have you, and you get ads even baked into the home screen. Kudos to AGM. This is clean. It's so refreshing to boot up and everything is smooth. My only gripe is the fact that I normally get tired waiting for window animations to play and so on, so I just, like in my previous phone, went over to the developer options and set the animation to the fastest they can be. It just makes your phone feel a little bit faster. For you guys who may not know how to get to developer options, by the way, just head over to the About Phone menu in your settings and tap the build number a number of times, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times, till it says that you are now a developer. Okay, we know you are not a developer, but yeah, when it says that, there'll be a menu called developer options that will pop up somewhere in settings, mostly under additional settings. There goes a bonus tip for you guys. I told you subscribing to this channel comes with perks. See now. So I've given you a free tip anyway. I've been enjoying using Android 13 on this Note N1. I only hope that AGM will provide timely updates for long enough, at least 2-3 years, but I have no information about that. Only time will tell. Having talked about the software, let's now highlight the performance of this device because it's important. AGM here went with a chip that is less used, less known by many people, and I was wondering how it performs. It's called the Unisoc T606, especially compared to like the likes of Snapdragons and MediaTeks that are calling the shots in the Android world out here. Now, there are 3 important things that your chip determines. First is your connectivity, you know, like network supported and so on. Next, the performance of tasks, apps, like how speedy or how slow your phone's processing will be. And finally, graphics. That's the like visual experience in games and videos, resolution, colors, and so on. So in terms of connectivity, I haven't had any issues with the network over here in Kenya. The phone has been stable on 4G in both Safaricom, Airtel, both at the same time. Bluetooth works fine, and I've got pretty much the same Wi-Fi speeds on this phone and on my other device, the Realme 6, which is reassuring. Now, about the CPU and GPU performance, I was unable to run Antutu version 10 on this device, despite downloading a whole GB of it. I kind of just gave up, but I managed to run Slingshot Extreme by 3D Mark, in which our Note N1 here managed an overall score of 975 points, which is not really much to write home about. And in wildlife stress test, I got a best loop score of 432 and a lowest loop score of 427. But at least the phone didn't get that hot at all. The point here is you're gonna be just fine, you know, doing some light gaming, some other normal tasks in this phone. You're not gonna be pushing heavy games, photo editing, video editing, and so on over here. Next is the media experience. First, in as far as sound is concerned, it's loud enough, I think, for most applications. Take a listen. Now, compared to my other phone, the AGM Note N1 here is a bit lacking in the low end, but at least I haven't had any significant distortion in the high end, which is a good thing. On the camera side of things, this is for the everyday guy or girl who just wants to snap a photo of something and send to someone on WhatsApp. You know, you get the point. And here go some photo samples. Yeah, that's right. You saw it. For some reason, in the default setting, the selfies are processed to produce these red lips. I don't know whether that's this AI that is written right here on the back or what that is, but thank goodness there's a setting for lips on the camera's beauty mode that you should make sure to turn down to 0 first thing if you get this phone. In the video department, I took some clips of my robot vacuum cleaning around, at the same time filming using the auto mode on this studio camera, so you guys can make a comparison of what the video looks like. So once more, here you're not gonna be getting any professional video, just some quick 1080p 30 frames per second files out of the main camera and 720p 30 fps files out of the front camera that you could use as long as you have adequate lighting. Doesn't appear like there's any sort of stabilization over here, so yeah, take note. Now finally guys, let's bring this home. The big question: would I recommend the AGM Note N1? I would say that this mainly depends on how much you can nab this thing for. AGM says that they are planning to launch it. They were planning, actually. I think they already launched it at a discounted price of 17,980 shillings, down from a proposed 35,960 shillings sell price. Now, this is my advice to them, and I know they are listening. Just keep it at 20k, around there, or less. This should be a good buy if you get it at around 20k. Especially because above that 20k line, competition is pretty stiff when it comes to processors and camera performance, which are things I'm sure that anyone willing to churn out more than 20k will be quite keen on. That's it, guys. Hope you liked this episode, and see you in the next one. As always, no pressure.